I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Dacia Harwood, and Dacia is Executive Director of Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Welcome, Dacia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're on the show. Every time I go into the Historical Museum, I'm always impressed. Whether I'm just touring around or whether I'm going to an event there and you have a special display, it's just wonderful. And we are so lucky to have you in our community.
Thank you.
So maybe you can tell us about your exhibits and your programs and the things going on at the Historical Museum these days.
Sure. So the museum is always hosting different exhibitions, different collaborative programming, and all sorts of fun things. Right now, we're actually going to be hosting this spring an exhibition about the history of the last 50 years of Santa Barbara summer solstice celebration, which should be fun. And so we're looking forward to that. And then we're also hosting an exhibition about the centennial of Old Spanish Days, Fiesta.
So the solstice, how many years did you say?
50.
50 for solstice?
50 for solstice, yes.
That's quite a historical perspective.
It is. So we'll be drawing from the museum's extensive archive of photos and newspaper articles and all sorts of incredible materials. And of course, local photographs from people like Nell Campbell, who's quite an inspiring person in our community with her history of photography. So anyway, it should be a lot of fun.
That will be fun. And then the centennial.
Yes, we're working on the centennial of Old Spanish Days and celebrating their history. That's been a big project for us because we've been collecting the posters from every year that Fiesta happened, which is almost 100 years. It's 100 years ago, but of course there were a few years where Fiesta couldn't happen, such as during the war. But anyway, we've been on a mission to collect every last poster, pin, program, incredible photos, footage. We actually have video footage from the 1924 and the 1926 parades when they were going down State Street. So it's just an incredible collection, and really we're so grateful to all of the people who've contributed to it, especially this year as we've been preparing for the centennial, to really make sure that we have every last bit of history in our collection, because that's what we're there for, is to preserve it.
Yeah. And then you have to store all that stuff.
We do.
Right? And then probably find a place to put it, and then you have to go through it and figure out what you're going to put out for the exhibition and what you need to. I imagine you have a lot of things that you save just because you want to have it.
We do, absolutely. The museum has an incredible archive. Part of our Gledhill Library's mission is definitely to, collect and organize, for local researchers. But certainly the museum's own team uses those resources frequently when we're preparing for exhibitions. The museum actually has a very large underground vault area. It's about 3,000 square feet below the museum itself, and that's where our art, artifacts, archives, etc., are all stored in a safe and climate-controlled environment.
Oh, that is fascinating. I don't know that I knew that. Maybe I heard that someday, but 3,000 square feet underneath. And it's climate controlled.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, it was a big project for us several years ago to actually add compact storage to really safely store those objects, but also the climate control, which is climate control and dehumidification here in Santa Barbara is a big thing, being so close to the beach, as we are privileged to be.
Oh, golly, yeah.
Yes.
And so you have people on your staff, I'm sure, I don't know what the title would be, but who are experts in all of this historical
Absolutely, yes. We have registrars, curators, archivists, and really my team, which is small but mighty, all work together in preparing for something like a large exhibition, in the case that we're doing right now.
And so I bet, or maybe I'll ask you, do you use volunteers, I would imagine?
Absolutely. Volunteers help us with all sorts of programming. We host a lot of lectures. We have volunteers in our library that help with the research of people that are coming through looking for stories about their property or their family history or anything that they're interested in. We assist a lot of columnists and writers in Santa Barbara that are writing about very relevant stories in Santa Barbara that are going on right now. And so our volunteers help with that as well. But yeah, event hosts and all sorts of things. It's a really fun place to work, but it's a really fun place to volunteer as well.
Yeah. So I would imagine you get folks that are interested in genealogy too,
Absolutely,
right?
and we work very closely with the Santa Barbara Genealogical Society on a lot of that research as well, which is great. We have actually have a collaborative program with them where we share the many obituaries in our collection, which is one of the main things that people are looking for. But absolutely, it's very fulfilling to see someone researching their family history and be able to come to the museum, look through the newspaper articles and all sorts of things, and sometimes land on a photo of someone from their family. It's really extraordinary to see those personal connections.
Wow.
Which is what it's about.
The volunteer aspect, if someone is watching this or listening to this and they think, oh, I'm really interested in that, I'd like to be a volunteer, but what if I don't know enough? Do you train people?
Absolutely.
For their, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we have a wide range of volunteers, from the retired school teacher to retired librarians to just people who just want to come and help us at events and maybe, just do greeting or checking in and that kind of thing. We're very, very, very busy welcoming guests through events and our own programming frequently at the museum. So volunteers are always welcome, and they should just reach out to the museum and let us know they're interested in helping out.
Good, and so they could go on your website and find out how to do that.
Yeah, or give us a call. We have internship programs as well. We work with a lot of local college students. So yeah, definitely always reach out to the museum if you're interested in getting more involved.
And then you have regular hours, of course.
We do. We're open Wednesday through Sunday and every day from 12 to 5, except for Thursdays we stay open until 7, which is fun. It's just a nice opportunity to pop by the museum before you're heading out to dinner or a girls' night out, for example. We just hosted a little bit ago an exhibition of ladies' evening wear from our collection. We have an incredible collection of roughly 6,000 pieces in our vault below the museum, and so we had all sorts of fun girls' nights coming through the museum to see these incredibly beautiful clothing items from the last 100 years of Santa Barbara history.
Golly, that would be fun. Well, and you also don't you host First Thursday?
We do, yeah. Almost every First Thursday we host, and usually there's music and wine being poured. It's such a fun night to be out in Santa Barbara. You know.
Yeah.
We're also this year hosting the live art and wine tour with the downtown organization. Just one of many collaborative events that the museum hosts.
That's great. Yeah, you folks are great collaborators.
Thank you.
So, yeah, tell us about some of your collaborations.
Sure. So a couple recent collaborations would include the Old Mission Archive Library, the Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library, I should say. We did an exhibition of artwork that celebrated all of the missions of California. In collaboration with them, we showed both their oils collection and our watercolor collection. It was the first time that they'd ever been shown together, which was extraordinary. Right now we're collaborating with Summer Solstice, of course. We collaborate quite a lot with Old Spanish Days. Collaborated with the Bella Squardo Foundation to show artwork by Uget Clark. But yeah, every year you'll see us collaborating with multiple institutions just to really kind of round out the story of Santa Barbara history, and in our case, just to stay as relevant as humanly possible.
Gosh,
lots of fun.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So now, can a person who might be interested in a specific part of Santa Barbara history or their family history or whatever, what do they do? Do they have to call and make an appointment? Do they just show up?
So they don't have to call and make an appointment, but we always recommend that they do, because it gives our team in the library a little bit of heads up to do a little bit of their own research and see how we can really personally assist them. And it just makes it all the more fun for them to be able to come in and say, oh wow, you already know, you've already looked for this, or you've already taken a look in our photo files and that kind of thing. But a huge part of what we do is education. So we're also really educating the researchers that come in, of all ages, by the way, in the stories that they're looking for. So it's a good idea to make an appointment, but it's not necessary.
Okay. And you also work with schools, right?
Absolutely. We welcome schools many days of the week, including right now. I think we have about 60 kids there at this very moment.
Oh, golly.
Yeah, and they get to, of course, visit our exhibitions, but we do activities with them related to that whatever works in with the curriculum that they're currently studying. The older elementary students, a lot of the time will spend time with the archival materials in the Gledhill Library. Younger students will focus more on the stories of their ancestors. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. We host quite a lot of kids. And summer camps as well. We don't host summer camp, but we have a lot of summer camps that bring their kids over, and it's one of the activities that they do is to come to the museum.
That's great. So summer's interesting.
Yeah, and we're one of a handful of museums in Santa Barbara that don't charge anything for admission of any age, but particularly school groups we don't charge for. And a lot of the time we even help with their transportation to get them to our museum, which we're very proud of. Yeah, we just feel as though history should be as accessible as possible, and so we never want the ability to pay to interfere with someone's desire to learn more about our community.
So how do you help with transportation?
Great question. So we actually have a fund that is specifically for buses to get the class to the museum.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is amazing. Mm-hmm.
So if a teacher or even a parent is watching this, listening to this, and they I wonder if my school could come, my son or my daughter's school could come. What would they do? Would they call you? Would they just talk to their?
Yeah, they would talk to my education manager, and she would guide them through the process of securing a bus and getting their students over to the museum. So most schools these days are very limited on their field trip budgets, and we don't ever want that to be something that would impact their ability to visit. So we're just really fortunate that we've had a lot of really incredible donors that feel as though that is just a barrier that they want to see eliminated.
That's great. And I love it that you tailor what you're going to present to the curriculum in the classroom.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just we're really seeking to create, future lovers of history, people who are continuously curious about the community that they live in, right? And so we're just very committed to that idea that the more that you know about Santa Barbara, the more you're going to care about it, and the more you're going to be a great citizen.
That's great. Continuous curiosity about your community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The museum is, we're really fortunate to have a beautiful facility, but it's also very, it's also just a very engaging place to continuously come and enjoy. I mean, just this week we're hosting a talk about the history of the Libero Theater and a flamenco show. We host so many nonprofit events on site, and we just want to be the most involved as we can in our own community. So we're fortunate to be able to do that. It was fun. I had this talk about the Libero the other night, and one of our guests stood up at the end and she said, "I just want you to know that you just made it so much more meaningful for me. Next time I see a show at the Libero, it's just going to have so much more depth." And I love that. We're so fortunate to work with these incredible historians who just really bring history to life to our visitors every day. So anyway, I'm grateful to all of them.
Bringing history to life, that's what you do, really.
Absolutely.
The times that I have been in there, I am surprised how you bring history to life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you have a museum store.
We do.
And tell us about that.
Sure. So you can come in and find local history books, but we also have books about hiking and all sorts of fun kind of tourist memorabilia related to Santa Barbara. We carry old Spanish Fiesta posters, we carry solstice posters. I mean, anything that you can think of related to the fact that we all love Santa Barbara, you'll probably find in our store. And you can also shop online as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, so a person could go online and access your store.
Absolutely. We try to put as much of the museum content online as we can. You can shop online, you can search for research materials online. We do have micro exhibitions online so that the many people who want to remain connected to the museum can do that even when they move out of the area. And in fact, when you come to a talk at the museum, you'll see that TVSB is often there filming. All of our talks are also broadcast on TVSB.
That's great. That. Talk about collaborations. That is a
Absolutely.
perfect one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Well, again, we just want to make it as accessible as possible. We love having people there, but if they can't come, then hopefully they're gonna Zoom in our next talk, or they're gonna watch the recording of it in person later. So. And
you have a wonderful library. Tell us about that.
We do. We have the Gledhill Library. It's a research library. It has so many incredible materials. We have at least 100 years of Santa Barbara News Press history, many other periodicals. It has footage of many local festivals, home movies, you name it. We've got oral histories, at least 1,000 oral histories that have been collected over the years, and in fact by other organizations as well, just telling the stories of the many people that have been in Santa Barbara. So anyway, hundreds of thousands of photos. It's just an absolutely incredible collection. So I always encourage anyone who's curious about their property, their family, or anything else really related to Santa Barbara to come in. I'm always amazed when I get to walk through the library and see some of the items that our researchers are taking a look at. Historic maps and old programs, and the theater histories here in Santa Barbara. I mean, you name it. So It's an extraordinary resource.
And so once again, a person can find out when the library is open by going to your website.
Yes,
absolutely. And while they're there on your website, they can hit that Donate Now button, I bet, because you're a 501c3 and they can make a tax-deductible donation.
That's correct, and we are so appreciative of the many people that do that every year. We have an extraordinary group of members that continuously support the museum, and of course philanthropy is incredibly important for the museum. It's how we all operate, isn't it?
Yes. And so tell us about your hopes for the News Press area building.
Sure. So the museum is currently embarking to acquire the physical archive from the Santa Barbara News Press building. Over the years, the museum's acquired quite a lot of materials related to the news press. As I mentioned, we have at least 100 years in bound editions from the whole history of the paper, going through about the 1980s, along with wonderful image files. People like Beverly Jackson, who was a wonderful columnist here in Santa Barbara, actually donated her entire photo collection and article collection to the museum, which we've exhibited. So we have an enormous amount of materials already that are constantly utilized by our researchers. So we are looking to acquire the remaining materials in the building, which I hope we'll be able to do. And we're looking to do that right now with the help of incredible donors around this community that just feel as though it's really important and it should be saved.
That is important. Oh, I'm so glad you have a team of people working on that. And so the materials that are inside of the building itself are what you're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. So the old photo morgue, the microfilm that has yet to be digitized, the papers, you name it. We're looking to acquire all those materials. The News Press has an extraordinary history of its own in Santa Barbara.
Sure.
But if you think about any local paper and what they've documented over the years, I mean, the museum collects over a dozen local papers and has since we began in 1932. So the Stork family was actually very involved in the museum and in the creation of the museum, the physical museum, in the early 1960s. So anyway, we're looking to round out that collection, or with the acquisition of the materials in there. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to do that. But I think with some help from the incredible local community that we have, will be able to do that, because it's just it's an extraordinary piece of history.
That is just amazing. Well, and what else would they do with those things?
Absolutely, and we're just, as I mentioned, we're all about access. I mean, you can walk into the museum 5 days a week and take a look at those materials on the spot. You don't have to wait for a librarian to go to a separate facility and bring everything back. And so we're all about access, and we're looking forward to hopefully preserving those materials for the next hundreds of years.
Well, oh my gosh, Dacia, what a wonderful story you have. And I hope that our listeners are encouraged to make a trip over to the museum and go on your website, make a donation, find out how to be a volunteer. What about collaborations? Maybe they think of somebody that you might want to work with. Yeah, what great opportunities you bring for everyone in our community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're so lucky. We have this incredible team over there. We have a super dedicated board and just an incredible staff. And you know, the museum is just we really just aim to be like that shining light in the downtown community, but for all of Santa Barbara. So thank you for allowing us to illuminate that today.
Yes, and thanks for sharing your wonderful story.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.